So in the first part, we already saw how we can use True Foundry to do an experiment tracking. And in the second part of the demo, we are going to see how we can do the deployment. For deployment, we start with an inference script written by the user. So far, you can see that this inference script is a vanilla inference script that was written by our user, where they have trained their model and now they are loading their model. While loading their model, they have to specify a run ID. So I'm going to showcase how can we get these run ID. And in the predict function, all the user is doing is they are constructing features out of the inputs received, calling the predict function on the model and returning a user readable name. Now let's get the run ID of the specific model that the user wants to deploy. So we just go here, we copy the run ID and we paste this run ID here. And then besides this, we just make two other lines of code change that makes the code compatible with to be able to deploy it using Service Foundry. We simply add loading a fast API app and the endpoint that we want to create. And after this, we go back to our terminal and we simply call a deploy command. And this is going to deploy the cluster this is going to deploy the app on a Kubernetes cluster. And this command usually takes a few minutes to execute. So while this is running, I'm going to showcase how you can do something similar in your local development mode as well, because that is super important for the users. So now I'm going to do this exact same command, except I'm going to pass the local mode, and this spins up the app in your local cluster. So it makes it super easy for you to test out if there are any bugs. You can fix that and then finally just deploy things to production. So right now it is automatically picking up your deployments, installing your requirements, and then it will basically spin up a fast API app along with a Swagger documentation that users or your backend developers can go ahead and use to figure out how to use your model that you have developed as a data scientist. And we are just waiting for this command to finish. And while this is running, I am going to quickly show you how our Service Foundry UI looks like. So our Service Foundry UI is actually divided into multiple spaces, and you can think of a particular space as like a group of different services that you have launched within a Kubernetes workspace. And within a space, you can have multiple models that can be deployed. So in this case, I'm deploying an iris recording. So that model endpoint is currently getting deployed. You can see that the deployment is currently in progress, whereas our local deployment is already done. So we can go ahead and see how our local, so this app is a very simple Hello World app that we have deployed. And if you want to access the fast API documentation that have been created, you will simply go here and then you will hit try out. You can add a bunch of different inputs to your model and you can execute this code. You will notice that this is predicting your correct iris class. So this is working in the local deployment mode. And now the only thing that is remaining is we go check if the deployment is finished on our production. So this is still running, but essentially you can go back to this production, and when this is running, this endpoint will become active. Meanwhile, I also want to showcase that when True Foundry deploys your models, it not only deploys the endpoint itself, but it gives you the monitoring from the get-go. So here you have a hosted Grafana dashboard where you can monitor your entire cluster health, like your CPU, GPU usage, memory usage, and all the details, disk usage, network traffic and stuff. And if you wanted to do the same thing for your specific application, so like if you have a iris recording service that you have deployed here, you can go and check out the metrics corresponding to that app. And of course, this service is not yet deployed, so the graphs currently look empty. Anything related to your app, like if you have any logs, you have complete visibility into your logs as well. And this is also coming up because your service is currently getting deployed. And then we go check. Now it is saying that our service is successfully deployed. We can go back and check out the service here. So I go back here, I look at the endpoint. So this is currently saying that this is running. Let's just take a look here. Okay, yeah. So this is now deployed. My Iris app is now deployed, and I can again, and this is by the way running in production. So this endpoint can be shared with your developers, and all you have to do is again pass in the inputs to your model, and you can see that again the model is predicting the correct response. If you wanted, you can try out different inputs and see and this changes your response from Iris setosa to Iris virginica. So here you go, you have a deployed model in production along with your service level monitoring with your Swagger documentation, which the only thing you really needed to change from a developer perspective was add these 2 lines of code here and then run one single command from your terminal. Thanks for listening.